Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder. So today I have a rather relaxing and for me personally a little bit of a therapeutical kill compilation, and this is in the new Soviet rank 6 battle rating 9.3 anti-tank missile carrier, the Shturm-S. Shturm-S, I don't know how you pronounce it, I don't frankly care, and you have practically a battle compilation, a scene compilation where I remove helicopters with the ATGM. In fact, the ATGM is the only weapon that this tank has, but for that we have 12 ATGMs overall, and they come in 4 different flavors, which is nice. But I have settled only for 2 of them, which I think are the most useful. So get some beer, get some popcorn, snacks, whatever, lean back, enjoy your time, because I talk you through a tank that promotes camping, but I do not really 100% play it in that role. Now, for me personally, it is second nature to bring the fight to the enemy, to play aggressively, to flank the enemy, to play around the capture zones, and initially trying to win the game, to kill as many opponents as there are, and to support my team. But at higher battle ratings, the clocks of War Thunder tick a little bit different, so there are other things, other aspects that you have to take into account, especially the helicopters from the start. Now, my opinion should be well known on that subject, to say the least, but that's not the whole picture, because helicopters, well, it's tempting to use them from the very start before you have acquired more spawn points with a tank. And I get this, since there is no other game mode really for helicopters, only arcade, and I get this why a lot of people don't really like the arcade aspect. It's just your personal preference, and I get this. So it is very appealing to use helicopters from the very start. What really grinds my gears are the 8.0 helicopters in particular, or also some other helicopters that you can use right from the start. And before you even can get into cover, some ATGMs come your way, and at best you are immobilized, at worst you get one shot. And so this tank kind of helps the Russians quite a lot. But it is not really a dedicated anti-air vehicle, right? And it cannot do anything better that the Tunguska cannot do better 4 or 5 times, right? So I just use it in this role, and it has one of the 4 various different ATGMs that support this role really well. The vehicle has a lot of problems, to which we'll come just in a moment, but before that let's have a very rough overlook over what the vehicle can do. So it is practically the chassis of the Object 906. All around armor is only 7mm, so you get shredded by heavy machine guns, even with some 14mm parts at the front. The profile is rather low, with only the ATGM launcher, a single one mind you, sticking out, which also gets retracted at higher speeds, which is really annoying. The other thing is that the horsepower to ton ratio is just above 20 horsepower per ton, with a top speed of 62 kilometers, so the vehicle is really not slow, but it is just no competition versus the other main battle tanks of other nations, which match or overcome this horsepower to ton ratio easily. And in times of stabilizers and APFSDS or other weapon systems, your playstyle is just not really meant for frontline. That's just how it plays out, because you then have to deploy the ATGM launcher, and then you have to launch the ATGM, and then there must not be anything in the way, because you don't have a 20mm, a 14.5mm, or a 12.7mm machine cannon to remove bushes, trees, fences, anything like this. So you need to have a clear passage to the enemy with that single ATGM, and it takes a little bit to reload. It has limited firing arcs, and again at higher speeds it deploys. You have to wait for it to deploy when you stop, and that can be annoying. The reverse speed is not the worst, not the greatest, and this tank has no neutral steering, so when you then try to finish off some targets that are just traversing in front of you, so going from left to right or the other way around, with your limited firing arcs and etc., you have then some problems to get the ATGM on target, and at 9.3 you very often face 10.0 tanks. 10.0 tanks don't really know those issues, they are just perfect in their handling, boring but perfect. And I have to also add to this, so that you only have 12 ATGMs. So let's talk about those ATGMs. Your stock ATGM is the 9M114, 400 meters per second maximum speed, 5 kilometer range, 560 millimeters of penetration. Alright, not too bad. Then we come to a very interesting one, and that's the 9M120. And that has 550 meters per second of maximum speed, 6 kilometers range, and also 800 millimeters of penetration. And that is a tandem charge, so it actually overcomes with the first charge any sort of era protection, and then the second charge goes through the rest of the armor, be it spaced armor, be it also some sort of composite armor or pure steel, doesn't really matter, it punches through most of the time. Then there is a rather useless tier 3 upgrade, which is the ATGM HE, the 9M120F1, and it produces with nearly 7 kilograms of TNT equivalent, a penetration against any angle at any distance up to 5.8 kilometers of 55 millimeters. With the recent HE nerfs, that's not really appealing, so let's come now to the final, the tier 4 upgrade, and I think it is called the 9M220O ATGM VT, and that is an ATGM with a proximity fuse. Not mass velocity, maximum speed on the trajectory of 500 meters per second. That's not really that fast for ATGMs or SAMs, let's call it that way, at this battle rating. But the range is nice, with 7 kilometers and 51 millimeters of HE penetration is still fairly respectable from 6.16 kilograms of TNT equivalent filler. So that one is the one where I use the main amount of ammo for, and very nice going through this Leopard to a 5. With that said missile. That was a massive bug, I don't know. And there you could see how I also launched the ATGM versus the wall of a house, because you then, after you are ready to fire, first have to traverse the ATGM. So yeah, that's not nice. There you could see the tandem effect, by the way. So overall, the stock grind is not really that nice for the purpose that you need to have. So I think when you look at the footage, is it really worth that vehicle? Because it's not really, I don't really think that it brings all that much to the Soviet tech tree. Yes, it is very much promoting camping. Yes, it is really nice to remove helicopters from the very start of the match, supporting your team and saving a lot of the light tanks with your team, or the more fragile tanks, let's put it that way. And if you look at this from a helicopter's perspective, that is really annoying. But again, if you get up tier to 10.0 anyway, you are competing with the Tunguska, and the Tunguska's missiles, well, it has more available from the get-go, and also has radar guidance, which you don't have, and also has 30 millimeters to back it up, which you don't have. You only have this ATGM, and while such an ATGM would be amazing to have at, let's say, I don't know, 8.0, at 9.3 the clash of technology, the meta basically is just so much advanced, so much more advanced, that this does not really give you all that much, if you know what I mean. And again, because of the limited amount of ATGMs that you actually can carry, and with the fact that you cannot change the ammunition even when reloading, which is kind of unheard of. Every tank can change the ammunition while reloading. This one can. So now I'm reloading the first ATGM time. I could now not switch anymore to the second ATGM while reloading. So you have to select the next ATGM type before you launch the first one, which is really irritating, much like the mobility stuff that you have. And no, that is not the very same battle. That is in fact another battle, but it is so repetitive, right? So you see the helicopter, you just know that you can launch the ATGM, and that is how you remove one enemy player right at the start. But this requires a little bit of skill. A helicopter, seeing the ATGM coming his way, still could try some evasive actions, and while you still have a proximity fuse warhead at those distances of multiple kilometers, 3, 4, 5, 6, up to 7 kilometers, you still can not really judge where the ATGM is going. You don't have the radar guided fixing or aiming, and yeah, so it also takes a while for that SAM, if you will, to go to the helicopters. I'm not quite sure how it looks from the perspective of a helicopter, if the ATGM even renders or if they just don't expect it, but that's just how it is. And I think that this tank is just at the end promoting a very passive playstyle. Just leaning back at the back of your team, letting the main battle tanks do the main battle tank stuff, and just trying to support them by removing planes. By the way, this scene is also really nice. So that 84, well, I hit him, critical hit, still he goes. And now he tracked me. And now I try to get the ATGM on target, and you can see what kind of a struggle it is. Yes, I'm tracked, but still, even so, to actually launch the ATGM, to kind of get onto him, I just don't have the time, I don't have the firing angles, and a plane that's straight pulling up can just avoid the majority of missiles. So the closer you get to this thing, the more it is in a disadvantage. I cannot launch the missile, and look at this traverse, and yeah. I'm glad that I don't suffer here from hull break. I'm not quite sure if it has hull break or not, but I survived here this penetration, although I got splashed before as well, so I'm not quite sure what's going on. And now I try my best here, and look at this. It just flew right through the plane, and that is not my ping. That is not me. I'm not quite sure what's going on. He further damaged me, but I was about to repair instantly, and thanks to Gaijin's advanced game mechanics, well, that's all that it takes. He tries to disengage, and that makes it easy for me to kill him right there. So I only have now the one missile left. You might think, yeah, just go into the capture zone and do it like the automatic way, constantly refreshing your amount of missiles or rockets that you have. That's not so easy because, again, in close quarters, you're pretty vulnerable, but foremost, the amount of time that it takes for you to reload a single missile is obscene. It took so long that I expected it to reload all of them, but no, it was just one, so it's... oof. And that is a direct hit with the tandem warhead. So yeah, by the way, that's my preferred ammunition loadout, and that is 8 or up to 10 of the proximity fuse warheads. And then I still try to splash them here with the gun barrels, which I did on this guy, by the way, and watch how much I have now to struggle to go through it. I instantly reload then the tandem warhead. I selected it again before I actually shot, and now I try to charge him down. At first it looks like I have good mobility, and there you can see how I retracted it. And then the 4 tandem warheads, because they are just having the best penetration and the tandem effect to overcome any sort of era protection. I actually didn't meet so far a tank with era protection that I could shoot to demonstrate this, aside from the test drive. But now look at the time that it required, and this guy was actively spawn camping right from the start. I am in plain sight to him, and look how long it takes for the launcher to deploy. I aim directly at the tank in front of me, and the missile goes high, and well, I'm dead anyway. And he was like, you know, he had no idea what he was doing. He was spawn camping, abusing Gaijin's magical map design, and then this was the result. I tried my very best. I was actually damaging his gun breech or his gun barrel and tried to charge him down, and then the handling of the missile at short range was just so absurdly bad that he was like, what happened, and killed me anyway. So just as a demonstration how bad the handling can be despite your best efforts. And again, launcher is deploying, it takes so long, you have to press the button multiple times, and that, well, in this case it was a little bit down to packet loss, but yeah, it is always satisfying to kill those helicopters. That AH-1Z just killed a TATU, and I rebalanced him. And that's exactly what this vehicle's strength is. Because this tank forces helicopters to play somewhat with brain. And I say this because, as you could see, this is a lot of the high tier experience. There is an AH-1Z at higher tiers right from the start, just ATGMing, 16 ATGMs from long distance, and you can do nothing except if you have this tank. So to camp at the very back, even behind your spawn, and here I do it again, and to just remove them helps your team greatly. For you, this is like playing aircraft carrier in World of Warships or artillery in World of Tanks. You sit back and you just bullshit the tanks, or in this case, the helicopters that try to bullshit your team. And here again, you know, that is another match. And if you think, hold on, I have seen this before, yes, it's always the same. Now, is this a bad thing? Is this appealing gameplay? If yes, so get this tank. Yeah, get this tank, research it, and enjoy the stop grind up until you get to the rank 4 ATGM. So another aspect is here again. I see now the 2 jets coming, and in effect also this meteor, and I just couldn't do anything to help my tank. Any sort of real SPA could have easily, even manually, killed this meteor. He was coming at that shallow of an angle. Talking about shallow angles, you can even shoot down jets, which is deeply satisfying. Yes. So I think that is now the first look at the Shturm, which has its moments, and yes, it's a very therapeutic approach, removing all the helicopters, I have to admit. But helicopters really have their own problems, undeniably, and it's again all traced back towards Gaijin's dev team, which are not playing the game. I have no idea what they're doing. So I'm sorry. And that is the only valid point for this tank. Other than this, yes, you can kill tanks, but there are so many limitations. Having said this, you know, finally I think that's it for me today. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Let me know in the comment section what you think about this, and give this video a like if it did, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see each other on the waves, in the skies, and on the battlefields of War Thunder. Beautiful.